So for this battle report, we are doing still frames. So Austin, my opponent this game, he's kind of camera shy, so he didn't want to be in a video, but he was willing to lend his voice to some voiceovers. So hopefully y'all enjoy this. This is going to be slightly different. So we're going to go ahead and start out with the armies. So starting with the Chaos side, today I was running a Chaos Space Marines, so double battalion. So the first battalion was Red Corsairs, so that's on the bottom left of your screen. It's 3 units of Chaos Space Marines, a Jump Pack Lord with just the Thunderhammer, and then we have a Chaos Sorcerer. He does have a Jump Pack. For this game, I'm just saying, like, he's floating on the winds of magic there. That was my excuse for not having a Jump Pack on him. And so that's just basically for the CP. Then, on the top left there, I have a pile of cultists there. It's actually 30 cultists, so 3 units of cultists. This is an Alpha Legion battalion. We have the Chaos Lord on a bike, and he will have the Relic Combi Bolter, and he has the Sniper Warlord trait. And then we have the Demon Prince next to him. He has a Demon Prince of Slanesh, and I did take the Demonic, so the Demonic Claws, and I did give him the Warlord trait where he's an additional -1 to hit. So he's -2 to hit above 12, and then -1 in close combat. I've got 2 Butcher Cannon Contemptors that are Alpha Legion. They do not have the Havoc Launchers. I didn't have the points. And 3 Obliterators, so pretty easy there. And then on the top right, we have a Spearhead of Death Guard Plague Burst Crawlers with a Poxbringer. Nice and easy, 2,000 points, trying out some of the new Faith and Fury stuff. So just talk when you're ready.
What's up, guys? I'm Austin. So today I'm fielding my Space Marines army. Not a big fan of these guys, but hey, who cares? So I got 2 battalion detachments. Troop choices for both of them. My bad. Missing the guy right there.
We'll find him.
Alright, you want me to start that over? Sorry,
No. You could.
Anyway, alright. So, first battalion is headed up by Chapter Master, paying the 2 CP for him and a lieutenant. I've got 3 squads of intercessors, 1 6-man, the rest are 5-man squads. Intercessors were the only point fillers I could get for this list, so I had to do that. And all the sergeants are equipped with chain swords and grenade launchers, because why wouldn't I? Then I also have in the other battalion, I've headed up by a librarian who knows Null Zone, Mighty Heroes, and Smite. Gave him Relics of Chapters, so he's taking the Reliquary of Grimoire, or however you say it. Basically, if I'm within 18 inches of one of James's Psychers, what's going to happen is, if he fails it, he has a chance to perils anyway, regardless of the result. He subtracts 1 from his result as well. If I roll a 4 up, then I make him take mortal wounds. He's also a hero of the chapter. I forget the exact warlord trait it's called, but he gets an additional wound and has a feel no pain. For my chapter master, his warlord trait is Storm of Fire, so doesn't stack with tactical objectives, but any 6s to wounds from units within 6 inches of him go up by a -1 AP. Same intercessor squads as in the first battalion for the second one. Chain swords and grenade launchers on the sergeants. Only 5-man squads, despite the 4-man squad you see there. I need to find that guy. And then for the rest of the army, we've got an apothecary, and the others are the attachments onto the battalion. I don't remember exactly which battalion they went into. But we got a Predator tank with 4 las cannons, a Storm Bolter, and a Hunter Killer missile. 3 Dreadnoughts, all equipped the same, despite the one trying to look different, with macro plasma cannons, assuming I could English today, Icarus launchers, underhand onslaught cannons, and Fragstorm grenade launchers, a 7-man Hellblaster team, 3 eliminators, and 3 suppressors.
And what chapter traits? Because I know you're a successor, right?
Right, I run successor chapters because if you ask anyone who knows me, they know I hate any and all other Space Marine chapters. So a custom chapter, named him the Praetor, supposed to be somewhat based off a Doom guy, if I ever get to painting. We all know that's not going to happen, but hey. So they got stealthy, so they count as cover at 12 inches or higher. And they have Master Artisans, so each unit can reroll 1 attack and 1 wound roll in Overwatch, shooting, and fight phases.
So what's pretty neat is even though he's not using any successor chapter, like he's not doing like Iron Hands or anything like that, he is still playing successors and he's playing a different list. So pretty interesting. So, and then yeah, that's the end of his list. So for this battle, I'm just going to do a voiceover, as y'all can tell. So the game that we ended up playing a Maelstrom mission. Now the Maelstrom mission, neither of us had our copies of chapter approved. As a matter of fact, Austin does not have the new chapter approved, and I failed to bring mine because this was actually a pickup game. So we went ahead. I looked up online, and we ended up playing the Maelstrom mission where if you kill an enemy HQ, that you get to force your opponent to discard one of his cards. Or enemy character. Sorry, my bad. So we deployed 6 objectives, as you guys can see on the map. I deployed all the even or odd objectives, and Austin deployed all the even. Now he did win, or I won off deployment, and he ended up taking first turn. So as you guys can see, went ahead and deployed for the chaos side. I deployed all my plague burst crawlers on the left hand side. In the middle, it was like the obliterators and 2 units of cultists with some HQs behind them. And on the right side, it ended up being pretty much all the Marines and 1 unit of cultists over by that building. Now, Austin does not like playing with ITC building rules. So for this game, I did agree to go, ITC ruin rules, because building rules are part of the main rule book. But yeah, so he doesn't like first floor blocking line of sight. This has come up in multiple games, and I did talk to him after the game. I was like, man, you need to start playing with these rules, as you guys can very shortly see why. So Austin ended up taking first turn, and I failed to seize, and off we went. Now turn 1 ends up being pretty bloody. He moves up all of his intercessors. His eliminators are up in a building, or up in a ruin there in the middle. And he moves 2 Redemptors up. I think that the 3rd Redemptor ended up staying still this turn. He uses a CP to go ahead and make one of the Redemptors act as though they did not move for this turn, and off we go to shooting. Now, Austin's rolling for his number of shots is pretty good. I want to say that it was 4, 6, and 6 for the macro plasma guns. Ultimately, what ends up happening, he ends up killing all 26 cultists, almost a full unit of Marines, and he almost kills a Blake Burst Crawler. Now, it's not that terrible, but it's worrisome because he has whittled down so much stuff. Now, another thing that ends up happening this turn, 3 eliminators shoot out with their mortis rounds and end up killing the bike captain. Now, y'all do the math on that. I do not have good experience with HQs against snipers for some damn reason. Between Epidemus dying to 10 snipers and now this. Yes, and that was even with the -1 to hit. And he was wounding me on 4s. So he wounded with all 3. I failed 2 saves, and he rolled 5 wounds. So a really bad beginning of the game. But we'll see what happens. So my turn 1, and he ends up getting like 3 points, I think, for turn 1. Now my turn 1 ends up being a huge dud. So I start moving up the Plague Burst Crawlers, kind of just shuffle them up. Both the Contemptor Dreadnoughts kind of move up. They're in the corner. Reason why I put them in the corner is that way they are out of 36 inches from the triple Redemptor Dreadnoughts. Now, that's about the extent of it. The Obliterators, they shuffle up. That way they are within 24 inches of his Hellblasters and the Redemptor Dreadnoughts. Now, for the psychic phase, so the psychic phase goes off very poorly. As a matter of fact, I fail every single psychic spell except that I go ahead and so I had taken Prescience. I took Death Hex. Did I take Death Hex? Yeah, it was Death Hex. And I also took the Fleshy Abundance spell. I went ahead and re-rolled one of the dice for Fleshy Abundance. That way it would go off to heal the not 1 damaged PBC, but the other PBC back to full. And then failed Prescience and failed a Smite on the Sorcerer. So really, really bad psychic phase. My shooting phase ends up being kind of a dud too. I end up killing like 2 or 3 Primaris Marines around the table, and then the mortars pretty much whiff. Now the obliterators kind of go off a little bit. They take a Redemptor down to 1 wound, and then kill all but 2 Hellblasters. Talking to Austin after the game, he forgot he could duty eternal until after. He said that he felt bad just because of how bad my turn was, so he chose not to. But I think he forgot about it until he looked down at his stratagem cards after the turn. He's like, "Oh crap, I could have done this." But I leave a Redemptor at 1 wound. Now we talk about it, and he was all right with me charging the Demon Prince into the ruins there in the middle. So we basically wobbly modeled the Demon Prince. It couldn't squeeze between the floors, but he was fine with it. And the Demon Prince makes his charge and actually does kill the Eliminators there. So that goes ahead and gives me a kill for the turn. And I don't score any cards. Yeah, I didn't score any cards this turn. I actually had a very, very, very bad initial draw. So right now the score is 1-3 in Austin's favor. Turn 2 rolls around. Austin goes ahead, moves the Redemptors up a bit. I've got the Demon Prince out there in the front. Now, I have been using Conceal to keep the Obliterators untargetable. So I go ahead and I'm going to do that again this turn. He moves up his Intercessors on the left and on the right. And that's the majority of his movement. He leaves his character brick there in the center. So he goes ahead, starts shooting around the table. He clears out the rest of the cultists, kills 1 unit of the Chaos Space Marines. He did drop in his Deep Strikers this turn too, his unit of 3 suppressors. And kills off the Plague Burst Crawler that has 1 wound left. He starts shooting at the other Plague Burst Crawler a little bit. I think he shot some las cannons at it and does a few wounds. I actually roll really well for saves this time. And then everything else in his army that pretty much shoots at the Demon Prince. Now, the Demon Prince actually has the new Warlord trait from the Alpha Legion that gives him another -1 to hit. So most things shooting at him are actually hitting on 5s. This ends up being pretty good for me. I do end up losing him, but it takes basically 2 of the Redemptors to kill him. It actually took 2 Redemptors to kill him, and his Warlord and all sorts of guys shooting like their pistols and his relic sniper gun and all sorts of stuff. So I lose it, but the benefit of this is the fact that he doesn't have anything to shoot at the Obliterators. So I had made them untargetable, and the way that the stratagem reads is that they're blocked as long as they're not the closest thing. So that Demon Prince was actually what was holding everything back from shooting at the Obliterators. So it ends up being pretty nice. Come to the charge phase, he really doesn't have much to charge, and he goes ahead and kicks it over to me. Now, my turn 2, I'm feeling kind of discouraged at this point. You know, I do have 2 Contemptors and 2 Plague Burst Crawlers. I have 1 Sorcerer, the Poxbringer, and my Obliterators left. And then some Space Marines, but Space Marines are Space Marines, right? Luckily, we're playing Maelstrom, so were we playing ITC, this might be... I mean, it was still lopsided. At this point, he's scored 6 or 7 points, and I've only gotten 1 point because he's actually been able to score a ton of cards. So I pull my next 3 cards, and luckily these are cards that I can actually start scoring. So this turn is pretty... So we'll get into it. So I move up the Plague Burst Crawlers. They just kind of shuffle around. The Obliterators go ahead and move up in the center. At this point, I know that they're going to be able to be targeted, but there's nothing I can do. I Deep Strike the Chaos Lord down into the building up on the upper left-hand side of the table. We both agree that he wouldn't be able to see the Chaos Lord, so I put him in there. And he's honky-dory. The 2 Contemptor Dreadnoughts kind of shuffle up. They haven't been really doing much this game, but I hope that that's going to start turning around. Actually, one of the contemptors stays still, the other one shuffles up. My bad. And then on the right hand side, I do have I think at this point I had one Chaos Marine in one unit, and then 5 in another unit, and then the other unit was dead. So I go ahead and hop that one from the one-man unit into the building there. That way he can't be shot at anymore, right? Basically just kind of holding that objective. Now, I go ahead and start this turn off. The psychic phase, I do get prescience off, and I go ahead and heal the other, or I heal, I think, the Poxbringer. I heal somebody, but he heals somebody. Go ahead, start off the shooting. My mortars end up killing one suppressor, and the flamers from the two PVCs end up killing the first intercessor squad there in front of the two PVCs. So ends up being pretty nice for me. So then I go to the butcher cannons. Now the first Contemptor Dreadnought shoots at the Redemptor with one wound left. I put a bunch of wounds on it, and obviously he does save them, even though he has stealthy. It was a lot of wounds. So and I go ahead and pop the Sabotage Stratagem. So the Sabotage Stratagem is a new Alpha Legion stratagem that adds +3 to the explosion roll, and if it does, when they do explode, the opponent is not allowed to reroll. So he goes ahead, picks up his dice, rolls, the Redemptor blows up. Now, Redemptor Dreadnoughts are Primaris vehicles, which means they blow up for D6 mortal wounds in a 6-inch range. He goes ahead, measures it out, and ends up hitting all of his characters in his deployment zone, plus his Hellblasters, plus his one Redemptor Dreadnought, plus the Predator that's there. So he ends up doing 6 mortal wounds to the Redemptor. He puts his Chapter Master to 1 wound. His Apothecary goes to 2 wounds. His Chaplain goes to 3 wounds, and his other character, which his lieutenant, ends up getting put to 2 wounds. So ends up being really, really good for me, right? And so at this point, I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy with the results of that. I'm like, okay, cool. I actually did some damage to some stuff. The other Contemptor Dreadnought shoots and kills another unit of kills another unit of intercessors or something like that, or heavily wounds one. I can't remember how that one played out. And then the Obliterators go ahead and they double shoot. Now, I do roll pretty badly here. He does do Duty Eternal, and I end up leaving one Redemptor. I leave his middle Redemptor at like 2 wounds left, and then I shot at the other Redemptor and ended up killing it. So I kill one Redemptor, leave the other Redemptor at 2 wounds. Now, the charge phase rolls around. And I fail the charge with the Obliterators. So the Obliterators tried to charge the intercessors there in the building. Like there's 2 gray buildings in the middle. They tried to do a 6-inch charge into a unit there. Now, because I did this unit first, I decided I was sitting there contemplating because I had rolled like a 3 and a 3 and a 2. So I basically had to re-roll with a 60% chance of actually getting in there, which would have been real good for the Obliterators because I would have been able to kill that intercessor squad. But I decided to hold the CP, and the reason for it will become abundantly clear because that Chaos Lord that's up there at the top left has a chance to make it into the Predator there at the top left, which that Predator did take 4 wounds from the explosion of the Redemptor, so I forgot to mention that. So I go ahead, charge the Chaos Lord in, and I actually make it without a reroll, so which is really, really nice. I was like, okay, cool, sweet. And he makes his charge in there. And that's about the extent of my charges. So go ahead and roll the Chaos Lord's attacks out. He ends up hitting and wounding 3 times. I did have to use the CP reroll for a wound on the Predator. And Austin goes ahead and rolls his 3 saves. He needs a 6 up on all 3 dice. Fails all of them. So it's 9 damage. I kill the Predator. Austin sits there and thinks for a minute, and then he's like, I'm going to reroll one of these. I was like, you need a 6, right? He's like, I'm going to reroll one of these. I was like, all right. He rerolls it. fails the save. Then he's like, all right, it dies. I'm going to roll the explosion. Guess what happens? The Predator explodes. The Predator explodes, and then the resulting explosion kills the other Redemptor Dreadnought, kills his Chapter Master, kills his Lieutenant, and then puts the Chaplain down to 2 wounds and puts his Apothecary down to 1 wound. And does do 2 wounds to my Chaos Lord. Totally worth it. 100% worth it. Super happy. I hope the other Redemptor was going to blow up, but it didn't, because that would have just been like icing on the cake, killing all the characters. But anyways, the beauty of this is that it actually wipes out all of Austin's cards, because I killed 2 characters with these explosions, and ends up being very, very, very good for me. So at this point, I've pretty much wiped out anything that can hurt the tanks. Very, very good for me. The score at the end of this turn, I think he was still up. I think it's 5-7 at this point. So turn 3 rolls around. And Austin basically just shuffles his 2 Primaris characters at the top. They kill the Chaos Lord this turn. The intercessors on the left-hand side of the table start just moving to take objectives there. And on the right side of the table, he still has the Librarian, and he has a bunch of Primaris over there. I'm not going to really go through the turns here, because at this point it ends up being Austin is pretty much running away from me and trying to score points. It's a really, really, really close game. He has so many bodies. Primaris are so hard to put down. Even though I have 2 Plague Burst Crawlers and 2 Contemptor Dreadnoughts that are basically unhurt. And the Obliterators, he does slowly whittle down the Obliterators. I end up losing 1.5. But he is able to hide in that bottom right building in my objective, or my deployment zone. We end up going all the way to turn 6. We don't go to turn 7. And the game ends up in a dead tie. It actually came down to a couple dice rolls, and as you guys will hear in the post-game thoughts, really, really close game, really, really tight. If he were playing, yeah, and we'll talk in the post-game, but hopefully you guys enjoy this narrative battle report, and let's hear what Austin had to say about the game.
All right, how do you want to do it?
Oh, we'll just talk. We'll talk right now. So the end of the game. So we played a Maelstrom mission, and I tried to take a picture of the score in between turns. Ended up very super close, 14-14. So Austin, what were your thoughts?
Now, I was a little bit surprised. I got unlucky, as you probably saw in some of those pictures already, where my whole support by fire just blew up. So it was a very, very bad day for them. Now, if that hadn't happened, definitely would have been a lot further apart in this game. But all in all, it was a great game. Tie's a tie. Can't really complain about, skin of the teeth victories or defeats, or in this case, ties, because, English is escaping me again.
No, and I didn't take a picture of the cards, but you scored 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He scored 10 tactical objectives during the game, and I think I scored 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Obviously I scored more than that, but
Right.
He did draw a lot of D3 ones, and he kept rolling ones.
Ones after ones.
And then same thing, it actually came down to me rolling on one of my D3 ones, Supremacy, and I rolled a 1.
Mm-hmm.
So literally everything was worth 1 point, and then we both got 1 defend objective, right? Yeah, you defended 2, and I defended 3.
Objective 5, you had 3.
Right.
I was the only one. We both killed each other's warlords. We both broke each other's line. We both had first blood.
It was pretty funny though. Like he kind of alluded to, and like I narrated, the sabotage stratagem pretty much is what turned the game on its head. The fact that I was able to kill a Redemptor Dreadnought and make it blow up and almost wipe out all of his characters.
Yep. And
then he used the CP to reroll an armor save on the Predator to try to keep it alive.
And then it blew up.
And then it ended up blowing up when he rolled the explosion dice, which then killed half of his characters. So it was amusing for me. But at that point, I mean, you were crushing me pretty hard. So
That's
like,
when you started making all your points back there too. I made a majority of mine like the first 2 turns. You made yours in the last 4.
right.
So.
And so no, it was a great game, man, and I look forward to playing again.
Hopefully
So
I'm my guard then.
yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this this narrated ish battle report, and I'll see you guys next time here on Heretic Wargaming.